Dave here from Wags Automotive again. And I'll give you guys an update on the 48. As you can see, she's a little topsy-turvy. I think she got drunk last night and fell over. No, just kidding. I'm working on it. So I've been working on trying to get ready to put POR15 on stuff. And if you guys aren't familiar with POR15, I think I have a bucket of it around here. Let me show you so you know what I'm talking about. Get my camera off here. Oh, there it is, right over there. Okay. So POR15 is a very popular product among car enthusiasts. And you can put it, it says right there, you can paint it directly over rust. It seals rust permanently. So this is what they call an encapsulator. So it encapsulates the rust. It seals itself, seals the rust away from water. And as I told you guys before, rust has to have water to continue to rust. If like this roof here where that little bit of rust is, if that roof never gets wet again, that rust will never get any worse. I mean, other than a little condensation might make it a little bit worse, but it would take like 100 years for it to rust bad enough to make a difference. But this stuff, POR, it encapsulates it, whatever, and seals it away from water so it can't get any worse. But obviously you want to clean it first before you put the POR on there. And as a matter of fact, I've been told by people at POR that they guarantee that if you do this right, that when you put POR on something, it'll never rust ever again. That's what they claim. Now, I don't know if that's going to be true 100 years from now, but I'm not going to be here for 100 years from now, so I'm not even going to be here 50 years from now, so I don't care. But anyhow, so let me show you what I got going on. So all these parts here, these are the new stake bed pockets that I got to put on the bed here, because I showed you guys a couple of them were in the two on this end where I had to replace metal. The pockets were really rusty. Those are the two other that I'm going to use that are still good. There's my speaker mounts. There's my front fenders. There's my bed aprons. So all this stuff, I'm going to POR, like the fender and stuff, I'm going to POR the inside of the fenders. I'm going to POR the inside of all these. I'm going to POR the inside of those. And these bed sides, I'm going to POR it where I put the stake pockets, because once I weld them in place, I won't be able to get in there to do anything to them. So I'm going to POR them now, and then clean spots off where I make the welds and weld them, and then they'll be 99% POR'd, and that'll slow that process down dramatically. And of course, that in there where the other stake pockets go, I'm going to do the same thing. Now I've got new back fenders for it. There's one of them there. The other one's on the floor. So I've prepared the surface here to POR the insides of these, because I don't want these to ever rust. So I'm going to POR the whole inside of this, and it'll seal it from any rust ever happening. Okay. And the cab, the floor, I'm going to POR both the top and the bottom side of it. I'm going to POR the back of the cab there, back there with the speaker pockets where they go, where this panel goes. I'm going to POR up in the ceiling here where the headliner goes. I'm going to POR behind the dash, but as you guys remember, I have to replace the cowl first. Okay, so I got to do that. And then I got some parts over here. This is the cover that goes right there where the transmission hole is. These are the little pieces I made to go up there in the fender or up in the cowl. You remember that? And there's the cowl pieces. I went ahead and took those back off so I could POR the back side of them. This is the brake mounting, the brake pedal mount, and the I think it's brake pedal mount, or maybe it's just a dash brace. I don't know. And this is the lever for the vent on top of the cowl. That's the lever for that. So I'm going to POR those. I took those out of the dash. And by the way, if you ever want to replace your cowl on one of these trucks, see that right there, that hole? That is where that went. Okay, those two studs right there go in that, and you cannot get this piece out without cutting a hole in it. Now I didn't have to cut a hole in it. I could have waited until I removed the cowl and it would have came out with the cowl, but I want to POR it, that piece behind me. I want to POR that piece, and I'm going to replace the cowl now, so I just cut it out. But just remember, if you ever replace a cowl on one of these trucks, don't forget to put that piece back in as you're putting the cowl in, because once you get the cowl in, you can't get it in there unless you cut the studs off and put like nuts and bolts on. I guess you could do it that way. But if you want it to go back the way it was originally, Don't forget to put that piece in before you put the cowl back on. It's very important, okay? So then here's the bottom of the cab, and my patches I made. There's a little patch there where the emergency brake handle used to go. There's a little patch there where the master cylinder would have been, and then there's a bigger patch here where the battery box used to be. Of course, we're not using any of that stuff, so I'm going to POR all this stuff, and I'm also going to POR the whole bottom side of this, and then I'm going to use what's called a seam sealer around these seams while I got the cab up in the air. I'm going to use, or turned over, I should say. I'm going to use some seam sealer here to seal these seams, and I'll show you guys how I do that when I'm done. And I took these outer cowl panels off so I can POR all inside of here. I'm going to POR all inside of there. I'm going to POR underneath side of the dash. You know, all that's going to get done. So, you know, it's going to be very sealed. I'm not going to do the dash until I do the cowl because I want to POR the cowl as well. What I'll probably do is POR the cowl off the vehicle, and that way I can get into this dash a little easier, and I'll POR it, and then I'll attach the two and then touch up wherever I need to touch up. So that's not a big deal. So anyhow, that's where I'm at with that. And there's where the headliner goes, where I told you guys I'm going to POR all inside there. Do I have to do this stuff? Probably not, but it's going to, the more I put on here, the less problems Bo's going to have in the future, so I don't mind doing it. But anyhow, I was at a stopping point with my POR process, so I decided to switch gears and start pulling out the cowl pieces, okay? So I've got the cowl. Remember, I showed you guys in my other video how to remove a panel that's been spot welded. So I've got all my spot welds drilled, and I got them drilled here, and like I did before, I'm using my screwdriver to pop them loose. Now, if you notice, you'll see this shiny metal right here, and right here, and right here, okay? You guys know what that is? That's lead, okay? So back in the day, they used to use lead, believe it or not, molten lead, to bridge the gap between two panels. It was a very common thing. It was done all the way up into the 60s and 70s, and that's probably why a lot of guys who worked in the auto manufacturing business back in the day in the assembly lines are probably sick today, because if they were around this lead's not good for you, you know. It causes all kinds of problems. So, yeah, it's not good. So what I'm going to do, how am I going to get this lead out of there? Because it's, you know, I can't grind it out because it's lead. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you guys how I get this lead out. But what I'm going to do here on this joint, I don't need to take this joint out because I'm replacing both the cowl piece and the pillar, outer pillar. So I'm just going to cut this one above where the lead is, or maybe below it. I don't know, one of the two, because I'm going to take both pieces out anyhow. But I'm going to cut it somewhere away from the lead so I don't have to mess with that joint. But that joint there, I'll have to remove it, and this joint here, I'll have to remove it. I decided I'm just going to go ahead and replace the whole cowl piece, because, you know, it's me. Just like I said, I'm crazy. I got to do it. I got to do it 100%. I can't do it halfway. So I'm going to replace the whole, pillar piece, not cowl. That's the cowl. That's the pillar. That's the A pillar. Back there's the B pillar. Okay, if you guys ever hear that terminology, A, B, C. A pillar is the first one. B pillar is the second one. C pillar is if it's a four-door, there would be one back there. Okay, so that's what that is. So I'm working on popping these pillar pieces out. And let's see. Oh, and in order to get POR to stick properly, my method is, you know, I mean, you don't have to do this, but if you do, it pretty much guarantees it's going to stick. So if you guys have ever heard of this stuff, it's called Scotch-Brite, okay? And they make different grits. They make a fine, a medium, and a coarse. And of course, the medium one is the most popular. They call it maroon or red, whatever you want to call it. But anyhow, I bought a box of those. So this is what it looks like. I'll show it to you. And it's made by, well, this is actually very fine. Okay. Well, I didn't know that. All right. But anyhow, I thought it was medium. I think medium is probably the gray. So I was wrong. But anyhow, this is the one I bought. And this stuff is very popular with anybody that does any kind of body work. If you do body work and you don't own any of this, I'd be amazed. But this stuff is awesome stuff. It's really great because what it does is when you go over a surface like the bottom of this floor pan, which I've already done, it roughs the surface up. And remember I told you guys before about using a grinder with a 36 grit wheel at 12,000 RPMs. It actually creates a smooth surface, but it gives it what's called tooth. So that means it gives whatever you're putting on there the ability to grab, whether it's body filler or paint or primer. Well, not so much paint. Paint you'd want to have a smoother finish than that. But primer, body filler, and in this case, POR. So you rough the surface up with Scotch-Brite. And then the next step is, and it's a step you don't necessarily have to do, but I do it. I blow the surface off, and then I wipe it down with just plain old paint thinner. You know, nothing fancy, just plain old paint thinner. That stuff will dry real quick. You don't want to use turpentine because turpentine has kind of an oily residue to it. So you want to use paint thinner and wipe the surface down and let it dry, and then you can put the POR on there and it'll stick. So anywhere I put this POR, I'm going to put it all up in the cowl pieces there. You know, anywhere I can reach, I'm going to put POR. And this cab's going to be, other than the painted surfaces, it's going to be covered in POR. So that's why I bought a bunch of it. But once you put it on and it dries, it's not coming back off unless you grind it off. Literally, you got to grind it off with a grinder. I've done POR before, and when you do it, you want to wear gloves. You want to wear old clothes because you're going to get it on yourself. It'd be a good idea to probably wear a hat because I've got it in my hair before, and the only way to get it out of your hair is to either A, cut your hair, cut it out, or B, just leave it in there for a couple weeks until it finally falls out. It takes forever. So you want to remember that too. It's not good stuff. You want to, but definitely wear gloves because if you get it on your skin, on your hands, it's not coming off. There's no way. It's not coming off. So anyhow, another thing I was doing over here on this pillar, in order to get this A pillar out, there's a piece here on this side. It's still in place. So there's this piece right here. See this piece right here going around? So when it rains, water runs down the cab and then runs down this rail, and either runs off the front or it runs off the back down there. That's called a drip rail, okay? Well, that drip rail is attached to the pillar, and you got to remove it in order to remove the A pillar. Well, of course, being me, I started removing it up here, and I noticed there was rust underneath of it, so I was like, okay, you know what you got to do? So I ended up removing the entire rail, and I cleaned it with a wire brush. I didn't find any rust holes in it, which I'm glad, but there is surface rust on it. So before I put this back in, once I get the new pillar in place and the cowl and all that, before I put this back in, I will POR this whole area too and seal it so it doesn't rust any worse. And then the drip rail, I'm debating whether I should buy new ones or not. They're like $70 a piece, but this one here is in pretty good shape. The one on the passenger side is not. It's got a little bit of rust in it. You can see right there, there's some rust holes in it. So I got a feeling probably when I get this passenger side one pulled off, I'm going to be like, nope, I'm not putting that back on there. So they don't have to order new drip rails for it. But again, it's just, I want this truck to be right. I want it to not have rust, not have issues like this, and I want it to be fixed. So, you know, of course, it's going to delay me. I'm going to have to order the parts and wait for them to come in and then put them on. But I mean, it's just what it is. That's what happens when you're working with a truck that's 75 years old. I mean, I'm hoping I can get this thing ready to go to the paint shop before I leave in April, but I don't know. I've got 3 weeks left and I've got a lot to do. So we'll see what I get done. So anyhow, just thought you guys might want to see what I'm doing here, see what's going on. So if you ever decide to use the POR, just remember you need to scuff the surface up with Scotch-Brite or sandpaper or whatever, clean it, blow it off, and then wipe it down with paint thinner and let it dry before you put the POR on. That way you've got the best chance of it sticking, and it's wonderful stuff. It's just messy, but it's wonderful stuff. All right. Anyhow. Okay, so that's where we're at with that. We're still working on this cab. I was hoping I could start doing some POR today. But then I rolled this cab over and I started finding these little issues with it, and I want to fix them before I POR. I'm trying to, well, here, let me just do this. So, got a lot of stuff here, trying to walk around it. So I'm trying to get to the point to where once I open up a can of POR, it has a shelf life. It only lasts for so long. So once I open it up, I want to try to have as much stuff ready to have POR put on it as I possibly can, because obviously I don't want to waste it. So I want to try to use as much as I can. I bought gallon cans. I mean, you can buy quart cans, but they're a lot more expensive. I bought gallon cans. So I want to have as much stuff ready to get POR put on as possible. So that's why I'm doing all this first ahead of time, all this preparation. And then I'll be able to POR a whole bunch of stuff at once. I'm probably going to start POR tomorrow. That's my plan. And I'll probably got to keep working on taking this cowl loose too. If you guys want to see a video of me pulling this cowl off and replacing it, send me a message. Let me know. You know, I want to do what you guys want to see. So, you know, I don't know how many of you watched my 3.5 hour long movie or video of me doing the doors, which, you know, the doors are over there. Right there they are, and they're done. New metal on the bottom, ready to go to paint. So I don't know how many of you watched my short version or my 3.5 hour long version, but if you like that kind of stuff, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, say, hey man, we like this. You know, show us more, show us how to replace a cowl on a truck. I mean, if you're gonna replace a cowl, I don't care whether it's a truck, a Chevelle, a Roadrunner, you know, a Mustang, you know, or a foreign car, whatever, you know, it doesn't matter. They're all pretty much the same. They're all put together basically the same. So I can show you how I do this one, and you can do it to basically anything. If you want to see that, let me know. Like my channel, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, you know, make a comment, whatever. And yeah, you notice my holy shirt here. It went to church. Well, no, it didn't go to church actually. But I was doing some grinding today with my 4.5-inch grinder I showed you guys. And I was grinding like this, and I got too close to my shirt, and it wrapped up in my shirt, and literally twisted my shirt up in a knot until it stopped the grinder. Fortunately, I didn't have a grinding wheel on it. I had a sanding wheel on it. Because if I had a grinding wheel on it, I might be in the hospital getting stitches across here right now. But it tore a nice big hole in my shirt, so this shirt's going to go in the trash. Sorry, daughter. My daughter's in the Navy. But she got me a new shirt, so that's okay. This one here's seen its better days. All right, guys. That's it for now. When I start to POR this stuff, I can give you guys a little video on how I do it, show you what I do. And, you know, when I'm done, this stuff will be pretty much ready to go to paint, and that's what I'm looking forward to. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. And I'll say it again, subscribe to my channel, please. You don't have to watch it every day. Just subscribe to it. It just helps me out. All right, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good night. Bye.